people unofficially sort of called it Google OS. Or thought that's what the G stood for. But anyway, it definitely does look like pressure from Microsoft, because the last thing that Microsoft actually want, I mean, you wonder why Windows never has a live CD or a live DVD. For me, the logic is pretty simple behind that, is they don't want to separate the concept of the operating system from the PC. They want that to be glued, as in two parts of the same whole. And as soon as you start saying, oh, you can put a CD in and run an operating system, then it starts to separate that, and then it starts to let the customer think, what other CDs could I use? Which then leads them down the path to Linux, essentially. But the excuses for cancelling it, obviously, it would be anti-competitive. It would open up lawsuits, as if they're not used to that. It would open up lawsuits for them to freely admit that, oh, Microsoft got in touch, they didn't like us selling Linux, so we've removed it. And yeah, I remember seeing it as well, that you couldn't buy it in the store, they sold it online, but you had to go looking for it, and they took it out of the customer's viewpoint that they were coming in store, and the assumption was, stop doing it now, unless you actually asked or knew to go online. But it was interesting, the reasons that they gave, as I think possibly you can kind of believe them, sort of, maybe, in that people were getting these Linux machines, and it applies to the EEE netbook as well, with Xandros on it. And they were getting these machines, and they were plugging them in, and it didn't work the way they were used to doing it. They were not told by the sales staff what Linux is. They thought they were getting a cheap Windows, and they didn't realise that the Office that they've got doesn't work on it. Microsoft Office doesn't work on it. MSN Messenger, where's that? It's not pre-installed. I'll download the exe file, and it can't run. It doesn't know what an exe file is. And they get frustrated because it was missold, essentially. And then they take it back, they go storming back to the shop with a return. This computer is shite. It doesn't do what I thought it was going to do. I want my money back. And at that point, they're then told, right, okay, you need to spend a bit more money, but here's another computer. It's $50 or whatever price more, and it comes with Windows. And they think, okay, at least I know Windows. I'm used to Windows. For all its foibles, I know Windows.
I think the return rates, I think that's you repeat a certain, possibly repeat a misconception here, because they at some stage said that the return rates for Windows and Windows and in this case Xandros was about the same. I think it was the CEO of Asus who said that. There was a contradiction coming from Ubuntu at some stage, but there was consensus that the return rates was just a pattern of FUD, basically.
Yeah,
that's to say FUD stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I don't think we have expanded the acronym before.
It's not any relation to Elmer FUD. But no, I remember that as well, that that there was contradictions about the reasons. And I also think that for it may be sort of valid, kind of, for the Walmart thing, because I believe that was a desktop computer, and you would sort of expect the Windows desktop experience, sort of. But the netbook, the Xandros netbook, I mean, I played with that. It's not a brilliant distribution, but from what I saw, it was perfectly logical. People didn't expect Windows on a netbook. They didn't expect that full Windows experience, and they could easily adapt. Okay, it's different. It's like a mobile phone. You don't expect the same operating system when you switch mobile phones. People were quite happy to adapt to this new thing called a netbook, and it's like, oh, it doesn't have Windows on it. It doesn't matter. It's still got Skype, it's still got the internet, it's still got email, it's still got a webcam, it's got all of that, and it's fine. People adapted to it. So I think it was bogus as a reason for the netbooks, but it's possibly more valid for the desktops. So
there was a later phase, 2009, sorry, let me just get this right. I think it was 2009 when the It's Better with Windows campaign started. So there was a time where they were trying to kind of knock the nails into the coffin of the, at least in the aces of the Linux on the netbooks. And what they did, as far as I'm concerned, it seems like a marketing campaign with Microsoft where they try to repeat, as you talked about it at the start of the show, they try to repeat this conception that it's always better with Windows. So they had a site called It's Better With Windows.com or something where they try to tell you, oh, Windows is better for these reasons, and they try to basically put down Linux. Now, this is interesting because also we spoke before about this supposed, there is this thing about Dell recommending something and HP recommending Windows 7 or Vista as it used to be, even when they were talking negatively about the operating system. And what we actually found, a person who works in a computer shop leaked to us evidence that these things are being paid for by Microsoft. And everyone knew this for many years, but nobody had proof. But now we have proof that when you see things like vendors saying, well, we recommend Windows XP or Windows Vista, now Windows 7, it's an advert. It's not a true endorsement. It's not more of a, it's not even an endorsement any different from Tiger Woods promoting Nike or something, or wearing something that's they get paid for it. Maybe they mean that. Maybe they're serious about it, but they do get paid for it. So the fact that they get paid for it already tells you, well, maybe they don't actually mean that.
When you think about it, though, that slogan kind of backfires a little bit. Just think about it. It's better with Windows. And the customer's thinking, better than what?
Mm. Yeah. I agree. I mean, two things.
It draws attention to the fact that there's something else out there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know how much the mainstream user would think about the alternatives, because I was talking to someone else earlier about new users moving to Linux and
substitutes as well.
Yeah.
It's the alternatives. It sounds like that the Windows is the normal thing, and everything else is like kind of a, trying to replace butter with something that's just kind of not natural or something.
But I think Microsoft have been very successful in doing two things. Firstly, to tether the operating system to the PC, so that people see the Windows PC as one thing, like Gordon was saying earlier. I mean, if you just have to talk to people on the streets and they'll say PC, it's a piece of PC software, and they'll mean it's a Windows binary. But Microsoft has been very successful there. And I think with the Linux machines that were returned, whatever the return rates were, I think that was more of a case of people were buying something that they didn't realise. They thought they were getting a cheap Windows machine, like Gordon was saying, and they got something else. There was nothing wrong with what they bought. It just wasn't what they were expecting. So there was just 2 points I wanted to add on. Sorry, Ron. I'll let you carry on.
Yeah. Well, I received the call about 12 hours ago, which was kind of annoying for me, because there is this person whom I spent about 4 hours with, instructing on how to use Linux while I was doing a dual boot setup for him, putting a Linux distribution for him, and then setting things up and installing all the applications he wanted, and showed him around. Now what he did, and I kind of agreed with him, he would not do that, is on the second partition he wanted to upgrade from XP to Windows 7, and guess what happened?
Host the system?
Yes, of course, and doesn't know anything about it. But I told him Microsoft does not like to recognize the existence of something different than Windows. It's just this computer only runs one operating system, and it has to take all the partitions and wipe them all out. Just take one partition for the thing. Anyway, the good news, though, he didn't say anything about it. He talked about it today until he did the partitioning with the Linux distro and reinstalled the operating system. And because I was installing it with him, he knew what it's supposed to look like, and he basically followed the same process. He set up his Wi-Fi account and everything else, and he already has a dual boot machine now with Linux and Windows 7 in this case. But the good thing for me is that because I showed all these things, even though I worked quite hard, I could treat this as like an exercise. I basically showed him how to install for another person a Linux distro, and I hope that he's going to do this for friends or colleagues or something like that. And he's very happy with Linux as well. He got Windows 7 for free because he was a student. And as you possibly know, Microsoft likes to throw all kinds of so-called free things at the young generation so that they kind